Okay, so first talking about design and construction. So obviously with a fiberglass boat, most fiberglass boats are created obviously with a wooden internal structure. So wooden beams underneath the floor in many cases and wood in the transom. Now, boat manufacturing for fiberglass boats is getting a lot better, but I've got to say I am really skeptical of any boat that has wood in it. So I've owned a lot of fiberglass boats and almost every single one has ended up having some degree of rot with that timber. So basically it just takes one screw screwed into a wooden transom, for example, or a fiberglass boat with wood in the transom, to not be sealed properly to allow moisture to start getting in, and that will eventually cause rot. So all I will say is if you're purchasing an old fiberglass boat, be very, very careful. Check for rot. You can normally tell when the floor is soft to stand on, or there's hard bits and then the soft bits, so that's a big indicator of rot under the floor. Also the transom, if they're obviously weak, if you give the engine a bit of a move by the leg and the transom's moving quite a bit, you've probably got rot in there. You can also knock with your hand around on the transom, and any areas that is rotten will sound noticeably different. Now, there are a lot of fiberglass boats now that are full fiberglass construction, and I fully recommend looking into those. A lot of brands are doing that sort of manufacturing technique now, and I think they're going to last a hell of a lot longer. Some brands still go for putting wood in their transom under their floor, and they go to a lot more effort now with the way they seal the timber with various resins and different coatings. And it's also a special type of timber that is like a marine timber, I guess. So yeah, if you're buying a glass boat, just be aware of rot. Obviously the fiberglass construction has a lot of advantages as far as design goes, so you can mold the boat to different shapes which are going to handle the water better. So what I mean by that is you can have that really deep V down at the back of the boat called the dead rise, but you can also have like a flare at the bow of your boat and a really sharp nose that'll help you really cut through that chop but also push the spray outwards. And that's, I guess, a pretty big disadvantage that the plate boats have. They're unable to flare their bows. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so that's basically it with fiberglass boats. You do get a really big advantage on being able to shape the boat in any way you want over a plate alloy boat. So just be careful of the actual rot in the transoms, because it's almost inevitable, to be honest, that every single fiberglass boat with wood in it will eventually rot out, and it just takes as simple as one screw. So if you're screwing in a transducer or something like that, drill the hole, make sure you put a proper marine silicone or sealant in there before you put any sort of screws in it. So it's really simple. You don't need to do much, but be careful and your fiberglass boat will last a really long time. But look, back to the design aspects. In order for a fiberglass boat to remain stable at rest and both underway, most of them do not have ballast systems like some of the plate alloys do, like the Barcrusher. So what they have to do is basically flare out what's called the chines on the back of the boat. So you can see this part of the back of the boat here. The fiberglass boats will typically have a much wider chine, and it will also point downwards. And that's required to give the fiberglass boat stability. The downside is it makes for a much harder landing and ride when basically landing off big waves. So that's basically the way fiberglass boats are designed. Now we talk about the plate alloy boats. Obviously plate alloy is made from thick welded sheets of marine grade plate alloy. They can't really bend and stretch this stuff, so you will have minimum shape through the sides of your boat. If we look at the side of this boat here, for example, there's not a whole lot of shape going on in there. And I guess, so you've got a really stiff, really strong boat, but you can't flare the bow and have a super sharp nose, maybe like a fiberglass boat, etc. So it's a bit of a design limitation. As far as deflecting spray, all they can do is have something like this. This is basically a spray deflection chine. Now, these work okay, but they're really noisy. I've mentioned this before. They are quite surprisingly noisy. They do a pretty good job, but yeah, they take a little bit of getting used to. So your plate alloy construction, also a proper plate alloy boat will have a fully boxed and welded structure underneath the floor, and there's a lot of boats out there that have plate alloy sides, but they don't actually have that under the floor like the yellowfins. So they claim to be like a real full plate alloy boat, but they're not quite there. They're a 75% plate alloy boat. And why does it matter? Well, I guess I ran my last Barcrusher into a rock at speed, and if I was in just about any other boat, I think it would have been shredded to pieces. Definitely a fiberglass boat would have went straight under, and a fake plate alloy boat or a pressed alloy boat could have just been shredded to pieces as well. So plate alloy boat is a really, really strong, sturdy boat. You shouldn't, but you can bash it into things and bash it into boat ramps and into the trailer. So it leaves a lot more room for error, I guess, in your boating. And I need that because I'm not the best at, you know, certain maneuvers and things like that. So yeah, plate alloy, a bit limited with the way they can design it for its performance. But obviously one very cool factor is the ballast system that a lot of brands are doing underneath. Those things really, really work. They do a really good job of keeping the boat nice and stable at rest. Okay, so we've briefly covered design. Now I'm going to talk about on-water performance, and I'm sure this is an area which most of you are interested in. So, as I've said, I've owned a lot of boats, me and my family, a lot of boats, and in fact most of them have been fiberglass boats, and they've been your sort of main big brands in Australia, your Caribbean, your Cruise Craft, your Haynes Hunter type of thing. Owned a few Allisons in there as well. Now, there's always a lot of arguments and things about, does fiberglass handle better than alloy and all that sort of stuff, and it's a very, very interesting question, and it's not super simple to answer it, but I'll have a go. So the fiberglass, another advantage I didn't mention as far as design goes, is actually the hull weight. So fiberglass hulls will typically weigh more, a lot more than a pressed alloy, and more than a plate alloy hull for the exact same size. So if you're comparing a 6.0 meter plate alloy to a fiberglass, the fiberglass will probably weigh more. And now obviously that weight gives you an advantage when cutting through chop and big seas, because the boat is sitting down lower in the water and it basically displaces more water. So instead of a plate alloy which may go over waves like that, still lands softly, but it's mainly going over waves, the fiberglass kind of goes through the waves more. So it can be definitely a better ride, and that's a huge advantage. However, now, plate alloy, the thing that I think it allows you to do is potentially go bigger for your circumstances because of the weight reduction. So that in itself is an advantage. So this hull, for example, I think it weighs around 850, 900 kilos at 6.7 meters, weighs about the same as a, say, a 6 meter fiberglass hull of a good sort of brand, which will weigh around the 900 kilo mark as well. Now, here's the controversy. Do I believe that this boat at 6.7 meters in plate alloy handles better than top quality 6 meter fiberglass boats? You know, 21 degree dead rise, reverse chines, all that sort of stuff. And honestly, yes I do. So I think that this boat, hands down, handles better than any 6 meter boat that I've ever been in. And I know that's a big call, and I've owned plenty of top shelf 6 meter fiberglass boats myself. So the the plate alloy gives you that additional size for the same amount of weight. Now, do I think this boat would be on par or handle up there as far as cutting through chop, soft ride, stability, all that sort of stuff with a 6.7 meter or 7 meter fiberglass boat? No, I don't. Absolutely no way. There is no comparison. Okay, these boats are very, very impressive for what they do, plate alloy boats. And I think they allow you to step up to a next level of size and comfort and things like that than many people would be able to do with a fiberglass boat. They might have towing limitations or whatever, but I do not think that the best of plate alloy boats at the exact same size are on par with ride and performance with the best of fiberglass boats on the exact same size. That's just a total honest opinion over, you know, lots and lots of experience on the water. So, you know, where does that basically leave people? So, you know, it depends on what your requirements are. Like I said, I'm traveling a lot with my boat. I'm quite time poor. I want everything to be simple and easy. And I'll talk about ownership and things like that in a minute. So simplicity is absolutely key for me. Performance is really important, but it's not the actual top thing of importance for me. I've said it before, but if I lived at the coast and I didn't have to travel far to the ramp and all that sort of stuff, I would hands down own a big, heavy fiberglass trailer boat over this boat. I would. They perform better. They're softer. They displace more water. They are a really good thing. But the plate alloy boats are also really, really good for people like me, I guess, who just want practicality, ease of ownership, a bit more room for error. You know, and I do love the very practical design of the plate alloy boats. And, you know, I love the big open floor areas and how everything's kind of squared off and it almost looks like some sort of, you know, military craft, I guess. This boat is just all about practicality. It's a lot of comfort, but it's about practicality. You know, the fiberglass boats will also, as far as ride and handling, they'll deflect the spray a lot better because of their flared bows. They can have a bit more V built into the transom because they can mold their hulls better and things like that. So, you know, look, I don't think it's a question of whether they are on par, and I would certainly never claim that they are. However, I would say that not all fiberglass boats are the same, and not all fiberglass boats are awesome and handle well. So the statements I'm making, I'm really talking about the best of plate alloy versus the best of fiberglass, because there are a lot of mediocre fiberglass boats out there, I won't name them, where a plate alloy will absolutely kill it in performance. Softer, better ride, everything. So there's no kind of blanket statements here that would be true. But yeah, fiberglass has still got the measure of these things, and I don't think that's ever going to change, and it comes down to weight and design limitations of the plate alloy itself. Now, if we talk about you know, ease of ownership and things like that, so there's a few things to be aware of. A fiberglass boat does take quite a bit more maintenance, so you've basically, to keep your gel coat nice and shiny, you've got to be washing your boat all the time. You've got to be polishing it quite often. They go dull very, very quickly and chalky. They damage really easily. They chip really easily. And like I said, if I ran into that rock that I hit with a fiberglass boat, it would have been straight to the bottom of the ocean, and I could have been in a very serious life-threatening situation. So yeah, that's the difference. As far as ownership goes, the plate alloy is much easier to own. Get some salt away type spray at the end of your fishing, spray it on, hose it off, open all your hatches, let everything dry off, and you're basically done. There's no polishing on this boat, there's no nothing. Now that doesn't mean everything stays perfect, so I want to show you my floor here. The unpainted surfaces will always have a level of marking and weather from the salt, so I hope you can see that there. So this is the plate alloy floor. Now it's not actually corrosion, but it just doesn't look very nice. It's the salt water basically discoloring aspects of the plate alloy floor, so it's not going to look immaculate forever, and that's okay. And I'm already starting to get the odd chip and scratch here and there, but you can't do much about that. So I think with plate alloy boats, I think a lot of people expect too much out of them. So, you know, people think that a plate alloy boat is some miracle amazing boat, best thing money can buy, and you know, it is depending on what your circumstances are. They are a really, really good boat for what they are. Like if you're stepping up from a pressed alloy boat to a plate alloy boat, it's a massive upgrade. You know, pressed alloy boats ride so terribly in the chop that I'm just quite frankly surprised that people actually buy them. I understand people buy them because of their price point and they're just starting out into boating or whatever, but man, they are so bad. They are so bad compared to a plate alloy or a small fiberglass boat. So, look, I hope that has helped you. You know, I'm definitely not a plate alloy only guy. Like, no way. Like, one thing I am big on though is the glass hardtop. I've got to say, I'll never own a boat with clears again, with a windscreen and clears, and most fiberglass boats are in that configuration. The glass hardtop really offers a huge level of comfort on the water, and it just changes your day. But there are a lot of really cool fiberglass proper hardtops out there now these days as well. So I mentioned before, you've got the North Banks, you've got the Haynes Hunters, you've even got like boats like Tournament doing it now, which are a little bit cheaper. And a lot of these boats now have an all fiberglass construction as well, which I really like. So fiberglass stringers and fiberglass composite material in the transom, because I really don't like rot in fiberglass boats, and it almost always happens eventually unless you're incredibly careful. So yeah, look, I don't actually know what my next boat is going to be. I'm going to have this boat for a couple of years, and I'm either going to go to a larger plate alloy trailer boat, okay, but I've spoken about it before. The problem is you can literally double your money for one of these plate boats and get an extra like meter in length. Whoop-de-doo. It doesn't make a massive difference, not for the money anyway. Like, it definitely makes a difference, but not for the money. So I don't know whether I'll be going to a trailer boat or just leaving trailer boats altogether and going for a sort of a fiberglass moored larger boat that I can overnight on and things like that. So I'm still kind of undecided about that, but you know, for my purposes, this boat is absolutely awesome. It's definitely not, you're not comparing apples to apples when you're comparing an identical size, shape fiberglass to a plate alloy boat. In most cases, the fiberglass boat will have a softer ride. That doesn't mean it's a better boat. Like, ride is not actually everything, and these boats do ride incredibly softly, and this is a very fast offshore boat. Like I've said, like, on the way to the shelf, I overtake a lot of fiberglass boats regularly, and doing it easily as well, not some sort of white knuckle ride where I'm hanging on for life and very uncomfortable or anything. So these boats are quick, you know, they are cool, but fiberglass definitely still has its place in 2021 in the trailer boat scene, and that's absolutely never going to change, just purely because of the design limitations of the materials. And plate alloy boats are going to have their place as well. Pressed alloy boats, I guess they're going to continue to have their place because of the price, but yeah, I wouldn't be spending my hard-earned cash on a pressed alloy boat, to be perfectly honest. But look, there it is. Hope you found that interesting, because I think too often people have this in their head that fiberglass is better, or alloy's better, or my boat's better, and you know, like, I'm not interested in all that sort of stuff. I'm interested in facts. In the game fishing club that I'm part of, people have all different boats of all shapes and sizes, from small boats like this to even smaller boats to really large, big, you know, flybridge cruisers, and there's no kind of arrogance or anything like that. Everyone just comes together because everyone is into game fishing and we're all there for the same purpose, and you know, I really like that spirit. So yeah, anyway, horses for courses, I guess, depends what you're into. Both really, really good, I would say, in 2021. Both have their place in the market and they're not going anywhere. So, all right, hopefully I'll see you soon, and hopefully we'll be out on the water when the weather calms down a bit. See ya.